The Sea's Call. I am an old man now. My hair is gray, and my face has many lines, but I remember my teenage years very well. I often think about those days. The sand was soft under my feet as I walked by the sea. The waves moved slowly, touching the shore and pulling back again. The wind was cold, and the sky was full of gray clouds. I looked at the water and felt small. The sea was big, strong, and endless. I walked every evening thinking about my life. Everything felt the same. Every day I woke up, worked, ate, and slept. Nothing changed, and I felt lost. I thought about my past as I watched the waves. When I was young, I had big dreams. I wanted to travel, to see new places, and to do something great. But life was different now. Work, bills, and time took everything away. I felt tired, as if my heart carried a heavy weight. I wanted something more, but I did not know what. The sound of the sea made me feel both calm and sad. As I walked, I heard something strange. It was not the wind or the waves. It was a voice far away but clear. I stopped and listened. Help, help. The voice was weak, but real. My heart started to beat faster. I looked at the water and saw something moving. It was a person, but I could not see clearly. The waves were too strong. I took a step closer to the water, my eyes fixed on the dark sea. The person moved again, arms pushing against the waves. It was a woman. She was in trouble and no one else was there. She needed help, but the water was deep and wild. Fear filled my mind and I felt frozen. The sea was not safe. It was too big, too strong, and too dangerous. I wanted to move, but my body did not listen. My feet stayed on the sand as if stuck. My heart told me to run, to jump in, to save her. But my fear held me back. What if I could not reach her? What if I got pulled in too? The wind grew stronger and the waves crashed louder. The sky turned darker and the woman's cries became weaker. I took a deep breath and tried to think. I could not let fear stop me. Someone's life was in danger. I had to act, and I had to act fast. My mind searched for ideas. I looked around, hoping to find something, a rope, a boat, anything that could help. But there was nothing, only sand, wind, and water. The woman's head went under the water for a second, then came back up. She was losing strength. My chest felt tight and my hands shook. I had no time left to think. I had to decide, run and find help, or jump in and save her myself. The waves kept moving, the wind kept blowing, and my heart kept pounding. I took one last look at the water. The woman was still there, still fighting. I could not stand there any longer. My fear had to wait. Without another thought, I ran toward the sea. The cold water touched my feet, then my legs, then my waist. The waves pushed against me, but I did not stop. I had made my choice. The water was colder than I expected, and it took my breath away. The waves hit my body, trying to push me back to the shore. I kept moving forward, feeling the sand disappear under my feet. My legs struggled as the water rose higher. The woman was still far away, her arms splashing weakly. I had to reach her before it was too late. My heart pounded, and my hands shook, but I did not stop. I swam as fast as I could, but the waves made it hard. Every time I moved forward, the water pulled me back. The wind was loud and the sky was darker now. I could barely hear the woman's voice. She was losing strength and I was running out of time. My arms felt heavy and my breaths were short. I pushed forward, ignoring the pain in my muscles. Nothing else mattered except saving her. The distance between us grew smaller, but so did my energy. My body screamed for rest, but I refused to stop. The woman's head disappeared under the water, and fear gripped my heart. I took a deep breath and dived under. The water was dark and endless. I could not see her clearly, but I reached out, hoping to find her. My fingers touched something soft. It was her arm. I grabbed it and pulled hard. She was unconscious, her body limp in the water. My chest tightened, but I had no time to think. I wrapped my arm around her and kicked upward with all my strength. We broke the surface, and I gasped for air. The waves pushed against us, trying to pull us apart. I held on, keeping her head above water. My legs burned and my arms ached, but I could not let go. The shore seemed far away now, and my strength was fading. I had to think fast. I turned onto my back, pulling the woman with me. My body floated, but the waves made it hard to stay up. I kicked my legs and moved my free arm, slowly heading toward land. Every movement felt like a battle. The cold, the weight, and the fear all fought against me. But I would not give up. The minutes felt like hours as I swam. My breaths were short and my vision blurred. The beach was closer, but not close enough. I looked at the woman. Her face was pale, and she did not move. My heart ached, and doubt crept into my mind. What if I was too late? What if she never woke up? I shook the thoughts away and kept going. I had to believe she would survive. The waves grew weaker as I reached shallow water. My feet touched the sand, and relief filled my chest. I stumbled forward, dragging the woman with me. My legs were weak, and my body felt like stone. I fell onto the wet sand, gasping for air. The woman lay beside me, silent and still. My hands trembled as I reached for her. She was not breathing. Panic rushed through me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had come too far to lose her now. I placed my hands on her chest and pressed down. 1, 2, 3. I counted, hoping, praying. The wind howled around me and the sea roared behind me. I could not fail. I had to save her. I kept pressing on her chest, counting in my head. My hands shook, but I did not stop. The woman's face was pale and her lips were blue. The wind blew against my skin, cold and sharp. My breath was heavy, and my heart pounded in my chest. I leaned down and listened. There was no sound, no breath, no movement. Fear filled my mind, but I refused to give up. I tilted her head back and took a deep breath. Then I pressed my lips to hers and breathed out. Her chest rose slightly, then fell again. I repeated the action, my hands trembling. The waves crashed behind me and the sky rumbled above. The world felt empty except for the woman and me. I breathed again, hoping for a sign, anything to show she was still alive. Seconds passed, but they felt like hours. My body ached, and my mind screamed at me to keep going. I pressed on her chest again, counting each push. The fear in my heart grew stronger, but I fought against it. I could not lose her, not after everything, not after coming this far. My arms were weak, but I forced them to move. 1, 2, 3, breathe. Then suddenly she gasped. It was soft at first, barely a sound. Then she coughed, her body shaking under my hands. Water spilled from her mouth, and she struggled to breathe. Relief washed over me, and I sat back, my chest rising and falling fast. She was alive. She was breathing. I had saved her. My body felt lighter, but my heart was still racing. The woman opened her eyes slowly. They were filled with confusion and fear. She tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. I could see the exhaustion in her face, the way her body trembled. She had been so close to death. I wanted to tell her she was safe, but no words came. I only watched as she lay there, staring at the sky. The wind grew stronger, and the waves crashed loudly. The storm was coming. I had not noticed it before, but now I saw the dark clouds covering the sky. The sea looked angry, wild, and restless. I had to get us away from the water. I reached for the woman, but she was too weak to move. I took a deep breath and prepared myself to help her again. Slowly, I pulled her up, her body heavy against mine. My legs were weak and my arms shook, but I kept going. The sand was wet and cold under my hands. Every step felt heavy, but I refused to stop. The woman leaned against me, her breath short and uneven. I could feel her heart beating fast, like a bird trapped in a cage. The beach was empty, and the world felt silent. Only the wind and the sea made noise. I looked around, searching for help, but there was no one. We were alone, two strangers brought together by the ocean. My body ached, and my mind was tired, but I knew one thing. I could not leave her. I had saved her life, and now I had to make sure she stayed alive. The woman's body was weak, and she could barely stand. I held her close, feeling the weight of her exhaustion. The wind pushed against us, cold and sharp. My legs trembled, but I forced myself to keep moving. The sand made each step harder, but I could not stop now. The storm was coming, and we needed shelter. I looked ahead, searching for a safe place. There was nothing but the endless beach. I took a deep breath and focused. There had to be something, some way to get help. My clothes were wet and heavy, sticking to my skin. My hands were cold and my muscles ached. The woman coughed, a weak sound in the loud wind. Her breathing was slow, but she was still alive. That was all that mattered. I tightened my grip on her arm, making sure she would not fall. The sky grew darker, and the first drops of rain touched my face. The storm was moving fast, faster than I expected. I felt panic rise inside me, but I pushed it away. Fear would not help us now. I had to stay strong. I had to keep moving. My eyes searched the horizon, looking for lights, houses, anything. The beach felt endless, stretching far in both directions. Then, in the distance, I saw something. A small wooden hut stood near the edge of the sand. It looked old and abandoned, but it was our only chance. I turned to the woman, but she barely reacted. Her eyes were half closed and her body was limp. She was losing strength, and I had little time. I gritted my teeth and took another step forward, pulling her with me. Each step felt heavier than the last. The rain grew stronger, falling in cold sheets. The wind howled, pushing against my body. The hut was close now, only a few meters away. I felt my heart race with hope. If we could reach it, we could rest. I could check her injuries. I could think. I pushed forward, ignoring the pain in my legs. Finally, we reached the hut. I let go of the woman for a moment and pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, but it was unlocked. The inside was dark and dusty, but it was dry. I turned back and pulled her inside, closing the door against the storm. The wind screamed outside, but in here it was quiet. I let out a shaky breath, feeling a small sense of relief. I helped the woman sit on the floor, her back against the wooden wall. Her breathing was uneven, but she was awake. I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. She had been through so much, but she was still here. I sat beside her, my body aching from the cold and effort. My hands shook as I ran them through my wet hair. The reality of everything hit me at once. The storm raged outside, rain pounding against the walls. We were safe for now, but we were not out of danger. The woman needed warmth, food, and rest. I needed answers. Who was she? How did she end up in the sea? I had saved her life, but now a new question filled my mind. What would happen next? The storm outside grew stronger, shaking the hut. The woman sat beside me, her breath weak. Her clothes were wet and her skin was cold. I needed to warm her, but I had nothing. I rubbed my hands together and placed them over hers. She did not speak, but her fingers twitched. It was a small sign, but it gave me hope. I looked around, searching for anything useful. The floor was dusty, and the air smelled of salt. In the corner, I saw an old blanket, torn but dry. I grabbed it and wrapped it around her shoulders. She shivered, but then relaxed. I sighed in relief. It was not much, but it was something. She needed rest, and I needed to stay awake. The hours passed slowly. The rain hit the roof and the wind howled. I listened, my mind heavy with thoughts. Who was she? Where had she come from? I wanted to ask, but she was too weak. I watched her breathe, slow but steady. She was safe, but the real danger was not over. My body was exhausted, but I stayed alert. I did not know what would happen after the storm. Would someone come for her? Could she walk? My mind filled with questions, but I had no answers. All I knew was that I had saved her, and now I could not leave her. The wind calmed and the rain softened. The storm was passing, but the night was dark. I leaned back, my eyes heavy. The woman stirred, and for the first time she looked at me. Her lips parted, but no words came. I waited. Then, in a soft, broken voice, she whispered, "Oh, thank you." The hut was quiet, but the wind still howled outside. The woman sat against the wall, her breathing slow. Her face was pale and her hands trembled. She was weak, but she was awake. That was a good sign. I watched her closely, waiting for her to say more, but she only stared at the floor, lost in thought. I wanted to ask her questions. Who was she? How did she end up in the sea? But I did not want to push her. She had been through enough. Instead, I stood up and looked around the hut. There had to be something here. Food, water, anything. But the place was empty, abandoned long ago. The woman moved slightly, trying to sit up. I stepped forward to help her, but she shook her head. She wanted to do it alone. I admired her strength, even in this state. She took a deep breath, then winced. Pain flashed across her face. She was hurt, but she was hiding it. I sat beside her again, unsure what to do next. We could not stay here forever. She needed real help. I needed a plan. The storm was fading and the night would not last forever. When morning came, we had to move. But where? The beach was empty. The nearest town was far. She finally spoke again, her voice soft. "Where are we?" I hesitated. I was not sure how to answer. "On a hut by the beach," I said, "and I found you in the water." She nodded slowly as if trying to remember, but her face showed confusion. Maybe she did not know how she got there. The wind outside was calmer now. The worst of the storm had passed, but the air was still cold and our clothes were still wet. I knew we had to get moving soon. If we stayed too long, she might get sicker. I had saved her from the sea, but that was not enough. I had to get her somewhere safe. She tried to stand, but her legs were weak. I caught her before she could fall. She looked up at me, embarrassed. "I'm fine," she whispered. But she was not fine. She needed help, whether she wanted it or not. I tightened my grip on her arm and helped her sit again. Morning was coming. The sky outside was no longer black, but a deep gray. The night was ending, and a new day was beginning. I did not know what would happen next, but I knew one thing. We could not stay here. It was time to leave. It was time to find help. I hope this session was helpful. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more such interesting stories. Take care, everyone.